was just skeleton. We're tired of hiding the bodies. How come they never had little sandboxes like this when I was a kid? There's a train there. I am freezing.
Y'all have a great trip back north.
Are you more comfortable than that? I think maybe one Laura, you can come back anytime you want.
Campo and this railroad have a lot of history to offer, and we will share a bit of that history as we take you on a living history train excursion reminiscent of train travel from the 1920s through the 1950s through San Diego's backcountry. Prior to Texas ranchers and homesteaders arriving in Campo in 1865, Campo was known as Miacatai to the Kumeyaay and Degania Indians who lived through this area. The name translates to Big Hills, which describes the general shape of the Campo Valley. During the winter, the Native Americans lived in small groups in upland valleys on the desert's edge. They migrated to the foothills in the spring, seeking ripening plant beaches. Summer was a time to return to higher elevation. Campo Creek has a large aquifer, which is ideal for cattle ranching. To serve the needs of the homesteaders, miners, and travelers on both sides of the border, the Gaskill brothers established a store in Campo in 1868. The original store was a wood frame structure built over Campo Creek, so the cool flowing water could show the food store in the area. Coming up on the right side of the train, just after crossing Highway 94, you will see the new Gaskill Store store, built in 1895. Today it is an excellent walking museum operated by Mountain Empire Historical Society and well-represented in the Stagecoach Road, which connected Campo to San Diego, a long two-day ride prior to the construction of the railhead. In 1875, Forest Gate Road was known as the County Road to Mexico and later led to a construction of Mexico. There were many incidents of horse and cattle rustling, with bandits crossing the border to escape local law enforcement. On December 4th, 1875, the second bloodiest civilian gun battle in the American West occurred here. Bandits from Kentucky, Mexico attempted to rob the Gaskill store. There was a protracted shootout, resulting in the wounding of both Gaskill brothers. One bandit was killed outright. Two were wounded and crawled into the brush to hide, only to be found and hanged from an oak tree. One died from his wounds about 3 miles east of Campo, and two escaped to Mexico. Several years of unrest followed, leading to the construction of the present fort-like stone structure. Since 1916, trains have connected this cattle ranching community with San Diego by a route that crosses the border into Mexico near Tecate and returns into the United States at San Ysidro, California. From San Ysidro, the original route of the railroad is used by the San Diego Trolley and continues to San Diego Union Station, now known as the Santa Fe Depot. A Union Station is a railroad station that serves two or more passenger railroads. In this case, the adjacent Topeka and Santa Fe Railway and the San Diego and Arizona Railway once served San Diego Union Station. On November 15, 1919, about 35 miles east of Campo, John D. Spreckles drove the Gold Spike, symbolically completing the San Diego and Arizona Railway. The railroad could now offer passenger and freight service to Imperial Valley, with stops at Macumba, Plaster City, and El Centro, with connections to Yuma, Arizona, and points east. At Yuma, the first-class sleeping cars from San Diego were added to the Golden State train destined for Chicago. Passenger service ended on San Diego and Arizona Railway on January 11, 1951. 35 years later, on January 4, 1986, the Railway Museum began offering historic passenger excursions from public enjoyment on this historic line. Trail crossing. The southern terminus of the trail is about 2 miles away at the international border here in Campo. The northern terminus is 2,650 miles north in British Columbia's Manning Park. It is the 7th longest trail in America and traverses the California desert, the Sierra Nevada mountain range, the Cascade Mountain range in Oregon, and the Olympic Mountains in Washington. Hikers can be spotted most often during the months of March and April, which is the ideal time to begin and complete the entire trail in one season.
Back, and I'll make an announcement and let you guys know what our next steps are. I think we're lost. for riding with us today. We have reached the limits of our authority there at milepost 64. About a half mile past that, we had a derailment 2 months ago. And so we have crews out there right now working on the track in anticipation of we're going to have that track reopen in about a month, when we're going to start running our North Pole Limited trains going all the way down there to the North Pole. So that'll be fixed shortly. But as an added benefit, to show you more of this line that most folks don't get to see, what we're going to do today is we're going to go past where we started, past the Railroad Museum, and we're going to take you about a mile east of that. And we're going to show you the yard, our newly acquired coaster, one of the oldest sites in Campo. And then we're also going to show you some other equipment that we have up there in the yard. So you're going to get a tour that not many people get to see of our upper yard and our lower yard there east of Railroad Museum, because most folks stop at Railroad Museum. So stay with us. We'll be back up there in about 10 minutes, and then we'll start walking you through some of the sites up there. Until then, feel free to enjoy your seats or move about and see what you see. And if you have any questions, just make sure to let us know. But until then, thanks for riding with us here at the San Diego and Arizona Railroad Museum.
President George H.W. Bush ordered the original barbed wire fence be replaced with old Vietnam airplane landing plates, which prevented the illegal crossing of the border by vehicle. Today's fence is a smaller version of the wall going up along the border in certain locations. 2 miles further west, the tracks cross the border into Mexico inside International Border Tunnel Number 4. As we travel back to Campo, some of you may wonder how a railway came to be in the mountains of San Diego's East County. This railway was a dream of speckled sugar-bearing John D. Spreckels, a visionary who moved to San Diego from San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake and subsequent devastating fires. Spreckels was welcomed to San Diego by civic leaders of the day and took a liking to San Diego immediately. He built and purchased water companies, railways, streetcar lines, houses, theaters, and contributed to the Oregon Pavilion and Balboa Park. At one time, he also owned most of Coronado and the land that is now North Island Naval Air Station. Spreckels' dream was to provide freight and passenger service from the growing port of San Diego to the middle of the country without the necessity of passing through Los Angeles first. With the opening of the Panama Canal in 1914, San Diego was the first port of call for westbound ships arriving from Panama, and Spreckels planned to capitalize on that opportunity. From the beginning of construction in 1906, Spreckels met many obstacles, rebellions, and the border war in Mexico, a halt of all construction during World War I, until he petitioned Congress for permission to acquire steel and continue construction. The widespread damage and financial anxiety from the Hatfield flooding of 1916 and more. Upon completion, the 145-mile railroad traversed 2 countries with 17 tunnels and 137 bridges. It took 13 years and nearly $18 million to complete the job. After the railroad was completed in 1919, San Diego held a week-long celebration called Transcontinental Week, and Spreckels' contribution was set in history. As luck would have it, the railroad was never a commercial success, given the high cost of operation and maintenance. Spreckels passed away in 1926, and by 1932, the family had sold the railway to the Southern Pacific Railroad, and the railroad's name changed to the San Diego and Arizona Eastern Railway. The Southern Pacific Railroad operated trains on the line until 1976, when Hurricane Kathleen washed out miles of track off the desert line. In 1980, the San Diego Metropolitan Transit Development Board purchased the railway to use the right-of-way for their new San Diego trolley lines. The trolley line from San Diego to San Ysidro and the line from San Diego to El Cajon are original SD&A alignments. The tracks you are traveling on are the area of the railway known as the Desert Line. Efforts have been made to repair the tracks, and the railroad has seen a few years of on-again, off-again freight service. Since 1986, the Railway Museum has been leasing and maintaining 14 miles of track for our historic passenger train experience. buildings were once used as horse stables by the U.S. Army. In 1941, Camp Lockett was established in the depot. The base served as home for the 10th, 11th, and 28th Cavalry regiments and housed as many as 5,000 soldiers on more than 7,000 acres. Many buildings remain from that era, including the Army Field House, later becoming the Mountain Empire High School Gymnasium, and now home to the Railway Museum's car barn. As many as 200 Italian prisoners of war were assigned to Camp Lockett. They worked in hospital services, mess halls, warehouses, shops, and on the roads and grounds. The stockade in which they were housed never had a locked gate, yet none tried to escape. Their masonry work is still evident at many locations in the community. The main location of the Motor Transport Museum is located about 2 miles east of here on Highway 94 in the former Standard Manufacturing Mill, and well worth your time to visit. Cleef is another local museum about Camp Lockett and Buffalo Soldier history, and is located about 1 mile south of the Railway Museum on Wall Road. Our next stop is Railroad Museum. We will retrain here to tour a railroad rolling stock inside the display building and on the outdoor storage tracks. Inside the display building is a restored steam locomotive, a Jim Crow era segregated coach, a railway post office car, and other attractions, including our signal science display, a hands-on teaching tool about signal systems in use by today's American railroads. We sincerely appreciate your visit today. We are an all-volunteer museum and encouraging welcome membership and support in saving San Diego's railway history. Please stop by the Campo Depot gift shop for additional information. We hope to see you again soon, and please tell your family and friends about us. In this digital age, word of mouth is still our best form of advertising. I'm Ken Kramer. Thank you for joining me for this edition of About Campo.
And folks, don't let Ken Kramer fool you there. We're gonna go further than what he said. This is not the end of the line for y'all. So what we're passing here on the right, you're gonna see it's our old section house where you used to house some of the railroad workers. It's that white building right there that we're looking at restoring. And personally, I want to turn it into an Airbnb. So in a couple of years, hopefully you can come out here and watch me do my volunteer job out here on the weekends. And cheer at me as I roll past. So we're going to pass the Railroad Museum right here on the right. So that's where our train's going to end in a couple minutes. There's a bathroom in there, but there's also some really, really neat restored rolling stock, including a railroad post office car that's won awards for its restoration work. So make sure you get a chance to check that out. And most importantly, there are restroom facilities of that building. So that's the most important thing to me. What you're going to see coming up here on the right is our newest acquired piece of equipment and one of our oldest. The newest is the coaster, that 2103 that used to run up and down the coast there carrying commuters. We recently acquired it earlier this year. And we're looking at restoring it back to operating condition. The other item you see is that old steam engine 104 there. That used to be up at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, and that attributes to the condition. But that steam engine 104 is one of the only artifacts we have here that actually ran on these rails in 1919 as an original steam engine here on the San Diego and Arizona Railway. What we're coming through now is what nobody really gets to see up here. This is the lower upper yard in our junction here where we come off of the main line into our yard. So we had to get Federal Railroad Administration permission back in 1986 when we started the museum out here, when we started these facilities out here, to let us build onto the main line and put a track out here and a spur out here that lets this operation run. As you might have heard or might know, this line is actually run by Metropolitan Transit System out of San Diego. Somewhat interesting, they wanted the track that ran all the way down to San Ysidro, as Ken Kramer was talking about, but the Federal Railroad Administration said if you buy it, you have to buy it all. So MTS owns this entire line all the way out to Plaster City, and we just lease the amount that we're running on today. So you can see coming off here on the right, we call it Track 99, or our Spur of the Unloved. You'll see what looks to be a really old crane engine right there. And you might say, why is that crane so important? What does it do? Well, it's the Josh Levin & Sons 7036, that crane that we're passing right now on your right side. And it was built in 1920 and it was originally steam powered. So it's one of the few remaining steam powered cranes that we know of in the nation. So it's sitting there waiting for better days. And what you'll also see there on the right are some houses that 10 and 15 years ago when they built them, and I wasn't on the railroad then, everybody at the railroad said you'd be crazy to build houses out here. Nobody would ever buy them. And now those people are all rich because they built houses on this historical railroad area. With that being said, some of the oldest land here we have in Campo Valley is going to be coming up here on our left in about 3 minutes. What it is it's the old Fort and Well site. It's one of the oldest homesteads here in Campo Valley, and it's dating back to 1875. You'll know we're passing in about 2 minutes. We're not quite there yet. But it's you can see the round cistern. It's a built-up well cistern. That's pretty much all that remains in the site. But that's one of the oldest sites out here in Campo, California, when it was settled. See, I knew it was coming. We're passing it now. It's sort of like being on the Jungle Cruise at Disney. So you can see the old cistern there, and that's all that remains of that site. So if you're interested in the history of Campo, California, and have more time one of these days, we passed it over the bridge, and Ken Kramer talked about the old Stone Storm Museum down there. But also up here, a little bit past our train, where we're going to stop up here in a minute, is the old Campo Milling Corporation. It's the building right next to the railroad that's kind of far in the distance. You can see it up there, somewhat northeast of us. And it's a landmark to mining and the milling of feldspar from the Hauser Canyon mine from 1921 to 1934. So they use it for various porcelain and china product and enamel and all that sort of things. But now it's the home of the Motor Transport Museum. So Campo, for as small and as quaint as it is, has 3 really interesting museums out here. We have the San Diego and Arizona and Pacific Southwest Rail Museum, the Old Stone Store, and the Motor Transport Museum. So make sure to come on back and check those out. With that being said, folks, we're going to turn back here and take you back to the Railroad Museum. I want to thank you for riding with us today. It's always fun having people out here, and the weather's been cooperative. You somehow missed it when it was 100 degrees in the summer and when it's 20 degrees out here in the winter. So this is a beautiful day for it. We're gonna head back down to the Railroad Museum and let you all out to explore there.
Oh, okay. So all I'm doing is just I'm protecting the shove because he can't see. He's about 4 cars up there. He can't see what's going on up there. And so I'm glad his ears out here. And remember when we were way down there before? I've been back here, and there have been people riding their horses up and down the train tracks on horseback. And I'm blowing the whistle saying, "Get out, get out, get out." And we go, oh, we thought this was nobody was on this railroad because we're only out here Saturdays and Sundays. We go, no, we still are trains here. So yeah, this is the emergency air. So if the train ever goes anywhere, you squeeze this handle and the train stops. Freeze it. All I'm doing out here is all 20 cars at the same time. When I see 20 cars, there's nothing on 20 cars away. You know, that's pretty clear. So yeah, see, that's some turkeys on the track, hitchhikers on the track, cows on the train, and that's the cars on the track. Off of my real job.
Oh, that's fine. I'm good here.
Plenty of space back here.
Yeah.
So yeah, the old pantograph, they used to be you control it from here, but then they welded over that window and took all the electric out when they got it out here in Campo. So, but yeah, I don't know how familiar you are with the museum out here. It's kind of interesting. When they brought everything out here, so the line runs through Mexico, and we just did a lecture because it's coming up on the anniversary. It was 1986 when they brought all the rolling stock out here. But the only way to get it was to take it through Mexico, through the old line through Mexico, and bring it out here. Since that time, the railroad tunnel into Mexico has collapsed, and they've started clearing it out, and one of our board members is actually, he works for the Mexican Railroad.
So there's some discussion about getting us back down to Tecate, but right now, essentially, we're a landlocked railroad. So to get that coaster out here, we had to crane it in all the way from the yards up at up by Pendleton. It got picked up there, got moved down to National City. National City, they put it on a crane, they moved it out here. But the load plan that the California Highway Patrol approved for us to get that out here, somebody has a map. We had to go off side roads, and you can only take it on the freeway from 3 to 5 a.m. and even then it has to be off this. So I mean, they took it on these side roads coming out to Campo. This bridge won't hold it, but that bridge will. So I mean, it was a heck of a movement. Somebody's working on a book, is what I hear, about the movement of that. It's just
more passenger cars. There's got a lot. Here is the bus with all the old people in it. This is 239, built in 1875. This one is 240, built in 1889. Okay.